Hi, I'm Jonah, and last summer I shot a movie called Bad Faith. Bad Faith is about a young woman named Jean who's just started a new job. But the problem is she keeps experiencing a bunch of anxiety attacks during her first day. During these attacks, she starts getting visions of a nightmare realm. So about 2 years ago, I was directing a film called Cody McGuire. And it was kind of a hard summer. It was really stressful and a little depressing. So in order to cope with that, though, I would do writing exercises in my journal. And the thing kind of came out of it organically, where all the writing exercises I did started taking place in one setting, and it turned out to be this weird alternate reality where the emphasis is loneliness, and the sky is always orange and there's dead grass everywhere, and I called that The Edge of the World. And I kind of wanted to do a film about it for some reason, but I was working on Cody McGuire at the time and I couldn't. But then fall came, and I scanned all the pages of the writing exercises that I did, and I kind of tried to make sense of them, and I made an archive. How I did that is that I made it into a book, an art book. And I kind of turned it into this narrative storyline that threads through the journal pages and samples and pictures and stuff, where there's an explorer that is journeying through this wasteland to get to the edge of the world. And so that was for a class, and we had an exhibition, and I got to put that up on the wall, and it was nice and lovely and very beautiful book, blah blah blah. And I'll release that someday, maybe, if I have the time. I still really wanted to do a film, so that sat in the back of my mind for a long time. And then early 2016 came around, and I still wanted to make it. So I talked to a friend of mine if she'd be willing to be in it. And when she said yes, I started writing.
So I was attracted to this script because I enjoy the screenwriter. So that was the first thing that got me in the door. And then after that, exploring Jean's character, it was actually an interesting character. I don't get to see too many roles as a woman where I get to experience different emotions and I guess try to handle loftier subjects like grief and loss in a nuanced sort of way. And so that gave me an opportunity to try to experience those feelings. Well, with Jean, I feel like I definitely went through numerous parts of my life where I was really dependent on a friend. And I wasn't really equipped to handle the loss or distance that friend might have asked for. So Jean is handling this, I think, very internally. So kind of what the film goes through is what's going on in her head. And you're able to see that and kind of see the metaphor for feeling that loss. And so she's clearly somebody who wasn't ready to be alone. But she's trying to find, I guess, her way into feeling okay with that, or moving past that.
Hi, my name is Amber Evans-Pinnell, and I played Phyllis in the short film Bad Faith. Phyllis is a jealous, conniving, and manipulative woman worried about her place in the office hierarchy. I think many people can relate to knowing a Phyllis. I think we've all worked with one. I think having her in the office is one of those regular office experiences that everyone goes through. She definitely shows how, working in an office can have a lot of internal politics that are not very pleasant to deal with, and honestly, it's one of the hardest parts of navigating in a adult job, air quotes, adult job.
honestly, my favorite part of the story is Howard. Because I feel like when you're in a place where you're feeling awful and scary and unlikable and weird and like incomprehensible to other people, to have somebody who comes into your life and is just like, drink some water, like let's go outside and like talk about our feelings and like just get it all out there. And having a friend like that is so special and honestly can change your life. And to play a character like that who's was probably my favorite part.
Sometimes it can feel really hopeless and really stifling to be in an office 8 hours a day, no matter what you're doing, even if you find it interesting or no. Sometimes there's just a little bit of an existential dread that sets in, going to work day after day, and I think Bad Faith does an amazing job illustrating that in the subtle themes throughout the movie. It never comes out and says it outright, but as we're traveling through the story, that feeling is definitely there, and especially with the monster, and going back and forth between the main character's head and reality, I think that's a feeling that most people can relate to, and Phyllis plays a pretty important role in that whole background story.
I really liked the field that we filmed in. That was a location I haven't really ever been in before, but it was a great physical representation of just some of the just bareness that Jane was feeling, I guess is the best way I can say it, is the loss, being in a field where these trees were cut down, and it's just kind of empty where it used to be a forest. It just seemed like a good metaphor.
The Edge of the World, for one, is a really douchey name, but it's kind of this place, I would refer to it as my sad mind space, and it's the space that emphasizes one of my darkest fears, which is being alone, and what worse to be alone than in a primordial wasteland with something out there hunting you.
One of these horror elements is my friend here, named Crystal. Crystal is based off a prehistoric predator called the Gorgonopsid, which lived about 250 million years ago.
And the monster itself, in the original book, it didn't take the form of a prehistoric creature. It can be whatever you want, really. Whoever goes there, that monster is your monster.
It took about a month to create Crystal, and I had a lot of help from my friends and family. We started with a PVC pipe skeleton, then chicken wire mesh, and a ton of paper mache, and 2 paint jobs.
So working with Crystal was challenging, mostly in terms of logistics. The actual puppet itself and trying to act alongside that was cool. I feel like that was a really well-made puppet. I mean, in terms of aesthetics. So when you see that thing peeking around a tree at you, it's not that difficult to not want to be near that. It's actually a pretty scary looking thing in real life. It's got this shiny beady eye. Yeah, I thought that was cool. I've never gotten to act with something that was kind of that fantastical. So it was really fun to kind of feel like you were being chased by a monster, and in a movie where there's a monster and a life where there is a monster. That's cool.
In Bad Faith, at least, the monster represents Jean's freedom and how she runs away from that all the time. And that has to do with a lot of Sartre stuff, Bad Faith and whatnot.
A lot of Bad Faith was based off the works of Jean-Paul Sartre and Eugene Thacker. Sartre was a really huge French existentialist, and Thacker is a really cool philosophy professor who writes about the horrors of philosophy. A lot of H.P. Lovecraft is involved.
Because after making the Edge of the World book, I started really to get into existentialism, and I read stuff on darkness written by Eugene Thacker, and existentialism as a whole by Jean-Paul Sartre. And I really liked his concept of bad faith, which is you're kind of just stuck in a rut, and you equivalent your identity with your profession. So a waiter, thinks I am a waiter, or a filmmaker thinks, I am a filmmaker, when really you're much more than that, and you have freedom to be whatever you want. And Jean is stuck. She's stuck between, losing her best friend and trying to focus on her job and doing good enough work and not screwing up so she doesn't get fired. But then the edge of the world keeps calling her back because she's more than that. And, she's dealing with this pain that she has to, take care of.
I enjoyed filming this. I thought it was a good process. I know that a lot of times I was on camera alone, but I definitely felt like I was working with people the whole time. The director and the tech were all really great and really knew what they were doing, and I felt like I was definitely in confident hands, or at least perseverant hands. I really enjoyed making it. I thought it was really creative and imaginative.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being in this film. Jonah did an amazing job orchestrating the entire movie filming and making sure that we all felt very comfortable in our characters, and the entire shoot was very organized. We did, at least the part I was in, we did it all in one day, but it was super efficient, and I've always just been really impressed with the work Jonah has done as both a writer and director. So it was an amazing project to be part of, and I'm glad I had a chance to be in it.
Filming was fun. I was only there for one day, I think. We got all my shots done in one day, which is always fun and nice. But I feel like most shoots that I've ever done with Jonah have been really fun because the kinds of people that he gets to participate in these is always a blast to see. I mean, it's always like really fun, interesting, talented, like people who are just excited to be participating in whatever project he's working on. So I think that always creates a really positive and like fun environment to work in.